Hey everyone, welcome to random 3D Max and Unity tutorials for Game Development 101. Today we're going to start with some simple stuff. A lot of people when they start 3D Max, they kind of just start modeling and doing some crazy stuff, but they kind of forget kind of some of the basic features of 3D Max. And going through school and talking to students and stuff like that, I kind of see them forgetting about some of the basic things that Max has to offer. So I thought I'd just run through some of the really basic stuff for you guys, and some kind of clever ways to use some of the modifiers and really basic things that Max has to offer to make your life a wee bit easier. So let's start off with just some modifiers. So let's make ourselves a box. I got a cylinder and stuff. Okay, so we got our shapes. That's all good to go. So let's go to the modifier panel here. So the first thing most people kind of forget is the ability to have this list. So let me just take these buttons off. So by default, Max will look like this. You'll have your objects and your thing here, and every time you want to use a modifier, you got to click on this arrow, type in something, and then finally actually pick what you want to do. Pain in the butt, you got to do it every single time. A few seconds here and there. Really waste a lot of time throughout the whole day. So the first thing I kind of recommend to people is setting up a little modifier list here. So what you could do is click on this little box over here, configure modifier sets, and go to show buttons. And by default, you'll get a few buttons. This is mine. And what you can do is go to configure modifier set. And then this little puppy here will show up, and you just freaking drag whatever you want to use right in there. So this is some of the stuff I use. You can check it out in the video. So bend, edit poly, skin, right? Extrude, a bunch of stuff here. So we'll go through some of these. If there's ones you find that you really like, just drag them in here. You can add as many as you like, as many as you'll tolerate having over here. So let's take a look at some of the ones we have. So number one is bend. People always forget about bend. Bend is like your best friend. You're going to use this quite a bit. Throw bend on a cylinder, right? If your cylinder has some segments, and you just change the angle and actually just bend it up. Great for pipes, great for doing a bunch of stuff. You can change direction as well. I use bend all the time for making catwalks and bridges, pipes, you name it. It's super handy. So it's simple, but always remember it. You can change the axis of which you bend. Sometimes bending on weird axes might get you some funky looking shapes. A good way to kind of prototype and have some fun too, and just kind of see what you can do with some of these objects here. And so let's go back to Z and do that. And then you also have limit effects, which is pretty cool too. You can put limit effect on, and then decide where your bend will actually start and stop. So if you ever want to, have something bend and then still go straight, you still have the ability to do that. And like all modifiers, at least most of them, you can still have bend on, go back to your cylinder, and put this little guy here called show end results on off toggle. Kind of looks like a little cigarette or something. Just click that on, and it'll still show you bend and allow you to change some properties under your cylinder, like if you wanted more height segments, right? Get this nice and smooth. Whoop. All that kind of stuff. Pretty sweet. So yeah, that's bend. Simple. Just you can figure it out. Skin is for later. Edit poly. It's basically an edit. Allows you to edit some polygons. Oh, ignore my Steam settings here. Get out of here. Shard and other ones. I'm just uninstalling a bunch of games. Just ignore that. Don't know why that was not up all day and just decided to finally pop up right when I'm in the middle of doing a tutorial. There you go, you guys get to see some of the games that I have in my list. The reason I use edit poly is if I have a couple objects and I would like to do something with their polygons, but I don't want to attach them all together, I could select multiple ones, hit edit poly, and then be able to select all their top faces and move them around in unison. So quite a nice one, and then you just convert to editable poly and be done with that. So let's get rid of this, and let's see what else we got. We got FFD box, which is pretty sweet. This will allow you to do is have like a soft kind of movement on your box. So you can set how many number of points here. So if you wanted to do, let's say 5 that way and none the other way, you can click on the FFD box modifier, turn it blue, and then select these points and change your proportions of whatever object it is without actually having to deal with a ton of, like, I have a lot of verts here. Trying to move every single one of these to try and get it where I want is a pain in the butt. This allows me to do some broad changes and kind of have them figure out where the rest of these verts and faces should go without you having to do them manually. So really nice if you just want to shape something really quick. You could even select a bunch of these, use the scale tool to uniformly scale some things, non-uniformly scale some other things. Trying to model a shape like this without using modifiers or some other tricks become more of a pain in the butt than it has to be. So remember that. Play around with what you're doing. You have a reset button too. If you ever don't want to do it, you can still keep it on here and change it around. I have noise. I don't use a lot, but it's still pretty sweet sometimes if you just want to add just a random assortment of noise. Let's add a whole bunch in here. Let's just do 200, and then I can change my scale down. Oh, there you go. A lot of crazy noise. You can watch it kind of go through your mesh there. Could also change the seed if I just want to try some different ones, and I can put on fractal noise if I want it to be a lot more, a lot stronger, which then I'd probably have to take down my actual strength. Right. If you ever just need to add a little bit of wobbliness to something, you could always animate it too. Let's get this back up here. Yeah, look at that. Sweet. Sweet noise. So you could always animate it if you're just sticking in, oh yeah, look at that. Pretty sweet, eh? Yeah, probably don't do that. But the rest of it's pretty sweet. Pro Optimizer lets you take something that's high poly, optimize it down, and get it to low poly. It does an alright job. Sometimes it gets a little funky, so you could just be like, hey, optimize this, but generally keep my shape. Obviously, cylinder, not a great example for it. You can take a look at a really high poly mesh and kind of do that. I don't use it a lot. It's messy, but sometimes it's nice if I just want to get rid of some polygons. Smooth is pretty sweet. Sometimes you'll do some craziness where I'm going to extrude a bunch of stuff. Alright, I extrude. Now I have all these crazy smoothing groups everywhere. So you know what smoothing groups are. Maybe I'll do a tutorial on that later. So now we got crazy smoothing groups, right? So smoothing groups make things look nice and round, even though they're made out of faceted objects. And I can, manipulate these on my own in here with smoothing groups. But the smooth modifier just kind of tries to figure it out as best as it can. So you do auto smooth, you pick the threshold of what kind of angle to choose. So every as long as the faces are within 30 degrees of each other, it'll put one smoothing group on there. So you kind of play around with what you want on there. So nice quick modifier for doing that. Let's back down. Let's just delete this cylinder here. Alright, so let's try something else here. So we got normal. What normal will do, let you flip normals or, assign them. So there you go. We got, open faces here. And I can take my faces that I have in here and use my my flip tool in there and flip them whichever way I want, which is great. And I usually use that. But normal's nice if you ever just want to flip everything all at once. Nice and quick. So I kind of keep that handy just because it's there. So let's do some other stuff. Let's just add some segments here, and we'll have some fun. So one of my favorite modifiers, which I don't actually use a lot, I just like how it looks, is twist. Twist goes whoop, lets you corkscrew some stuff, just twist them around. Yeah, look at that, sweet. And you can, change the bias, whether it's on the top or bottom, right? Again, if you ever had to model this, it'd be a huge pain in the ass on your own. So always remember, modifiers. Push is probably one of my favorite ones that I use all the time. So let's go back to this box here. Let's delete that face. Now, let's say I wanted to make, whatever, a box, and I wanted inside faces here, right? So I could, you know, extrude them in, and extrude them back in, right? Make sure they're aligned, right? Pain in the butt, right? Trying to give something some depth. Or I can use shell, sorry, I was talking about push. I could use shell. What shell will do is it'll just add depth to something. So you go do that, or inwards, and really sweet, right? You could do that for different types of objects. So if you want to do, you know, let's do a tube. Let's get a sphere. Let's get a frickin' teapot. No, teapot. Let's do a torus. All right, so you can get, you know, a bunch of different objects here. Let's just collapse a bunch of these guys down. All right, let's take this donut here. You know, let's just cut them in half. Let's take this tube here. Let's cut off the top of the tube. The sphere, let's just select, you know, a few of these guys. Just delete that. So, you know, if I ever wanted to fill these in and actually have them have some thickness, I could just select them, add a shell modifier, and bam, thickness. You know, really nice. Hey, I made a bowl. You know, I made whatever, pipe with insides. Well, we'll use the shell modifier for a different lesson too. It's a lot more helpful with splines and things like that. But anyways, super cool, super awesome. What push does is, let's select this box here. Let's go back to perspective. Let's select these faces here. So what push will let you do is it'll let you kind of scale things on like a uniform kind of, in a uniform kind of way. So, for example, let's do, what's a good one? Let's take this inside of this sphere here. So let's say I wanted to take some of these guys. I can throw a push on here, and it'll let me kind of scale them without, you know, messing up the shape. It's really, really useful. It just basically lets you push in and out uniformly. So let's say I had, let's go back to this box. Instead of doing the inside faces, let's take these outside faces. Now, if I use a scale modifier on this, it's going to scale them, you know, maybe not uniformly, or if I do that, it's going to do some weird stuff, right? With push, I can get in there and kind of do the same thing, but I can kind of define where a lot of this happens and kind of what instance. So really, really handy. All right, I could do it on select faces. All right. Or if you do it on an entire object, let's say we had this guy here, or let's do this one here. I throw a push modifier on there, and what it'll do is it'll kind of thicken it up. So if I just wanted to, you know, kind of make something a little plump, right? You know, trying to do that by hand, pain in the butt. So hey, let's use some push. Whoop. Look at that. It's pretty sweet. Alright, so it's push. Slice is also the best. Slice will just let you slice something wherever you want. So I turn on slice, I click on slice to activate it. Alright, turns blue, I can move it around. And what I can do is refine it. So you see here it's added an edge wherever my slice plane is going through. I can do split mesh, which will actually make them two different meshes. Or I can remove top and bottom, right, or bottom, whichever one you want. And you can rotate this. Right, move it around, try and slice things in weird angles. Really nice, you know, Fruit Ninja tool, pretty awesome, pretty sweet. All right, we got slice, symmetry, everybody should know, it's like the best thing ever. All right, put it on, it'll symmetry along this plane. See the two arrows going outwards from each other. And with it selected, I can move it around, and I can rotate it, and get some really creative ass shapes. Right, just with the symmetry tool. So let's take this guy for instance, let's throw symmetry on him. All right, start making some crazy looking stuff. All right, I could add a second symmetry and then symmetry. What I just symmetried, I could swap axes. So if I want a symmetry this way, you know, I could flip it to be the other way. Rotate, I could rotate this way, which is pretty crazy. So, you know, symmetry is the best. It does do some rough geometry after, so let's take a look. You're going to get this sweet thing from symmetries. It's going to leave verts in the middle of your edges sometimes. You just got to go through, clean that stuff up, and, you know, whatever. So be careful with symmetry. It can get really messy. Well, it will get really messy pretty much most of the time. So then we have taper. Let's do cylinder. All right, we got cylinder. Taper, I really enjoy. Does exactly what it sounds like, right? Pretty simple. You're like, yeah, I could just use like a cone and stuff, man. There's no need for that. But what I really love is the curve feature. Look at this shit. Whoop. Oh yeah. You could like curve it in, make some sweet looking shapes, right? You could do that on whatever you want. You could, you know, do that, right? Curve it in, curve it back out, right? Sometimes you could like break your mesh entirely. Yeah, look at that. Look at that shit. A friggin' beaker or something. I want to model this. It's awesome. Cool. All right. So that's that guy. Pretty simple, right? You could do different axes again. Oh man, look at this shit. That's awesome. You could symmetry it over as well. You could do limit effects like the other dudes, right? Play around with it. Just have some fun with these. Just wanted to show you that these exist, and that you can actually work with them. Cool. Turbo Smooth, you all probably know. It just makes everything super high poly. Whoop, whoop. There we go. One cool thing about Turbo Smooth, let's say I have this mesh right here. Now when I Turbo Smooth, it's going to smooth out that nice crisp edge that I had there. So you can do a couple things with that. Let's get rid of this. Let's go back here. So this edge right here, I can select this edge and I can chamfer it, right? And then add a Turbo Smooth and it'll kind of try to keep that crispiness. I could add iterations, be careful how many you add. I could smooth results or keep them faceted, all that kind of jazz. Now the one cool thing you can do here is, let's just get rid of this edge that we chamfered. When you add Turbo Smooth, down here you could show how you want to separate your smoothing groups. So you do by materials, so if you have different materials assigned to things, it'll smooth them based on that. Or smoothing groups, so if you already have a hard edge, you can just do that, and it'll maintain that hard edge, and it'll just add polygons around that area. Now that's probably too hard of an edge, but it's still a really nice thing if you just want to add some detail and smoothness around any hard creases that you've added. And then, you know, what you could always do is just add another Turbo Smooth without that on, and then you'll start getting a crispier edge. Anyways, I like that utility. It's pretty sweet. So use it well. Don't, with the iterations, never click, hold, and drag up because your computer will explode. So don't do that. And skin wrap we won't talk about or vertex paint. That stuff's a bit more advanced a little bit, but we will talk about that at later times. But that's kind of the gist of what I wanted to show you. Lathe we'll cover when we do splines and stuff like that. It's pretty awesome. But we won't talk about that right now. So that's a crash course in just some of my favorite modifiers. There's definitely a lot more in here that you can use that are pretty sweet. Some weird ones like delete mesh and stuff like that. Oh, I like flex too, but that's more of an animation thing. There's a whole bunch of crap in here that's pretty sweet. But again, this is the stuff I use and it's pretty awesome, and I use it almost all the time. So hopefully that helps you kind of get off the ground, doing some really fun modeling and shit and having a good time. So thank you.